Hey, I'm Stephanie, and it's time to talk about makeup. Welcome to my 22 in 22 Project Pan update. If you're new here, I always leave a link to the playlist in the show notes and the cards so that you can catch up if you want to. But if you would like to just jump right in, here's the basic premise of this project. I am currently on a low buy year, or what some people call a replacements only no buy year, and I am not buying any makeup or beauty products this year. And instead, I am really trying to focus on enjoying the things that I already have. And one way that I'm doing that is with Project Pans. This 22 in 22 Project Pan, is basically me shopping my stash for a full face of makeup and just really focusing on these items each month. And I'm doing it because I just really want to do a deep dive into my makeup collection to try to get to know my own preferences better and see what really works best for me. So this is a usage-based rolling style Project Pan. Each month I pick 22 items to use 22 times over the course of 2 months in the hopes that that rapid fire back-to-back usage will help me get to know myself and the things that I own better. So this is part 1. I always do these updates in 2 parts. And in the first part, I always kind of go through the things that I hit my usage goal on, and I share my notes with you. So it's kind of like speed review style. And in the next part, which will be my next video, part 2, I always share what I shopped my stash for and what I'm rolling in for the next month's project. So if that sounds interesting to you and you want to keep abreast of everything that's happening, then make sure that you're subscribed. But I have a lot to talk about today because I had a lot of uses. So let's get right into it. The first thing I'm going to talk about is this Clinique Pepstart Hydroblur Moisturizer. I didn't love it, but I didn't hate it. It's kind of And the reason is the smell. This smells kind of like antiseptic or medicinal, which normally doesn't bother me if it's not too strong. And I would rather have that than have them dump loads of fragrance and perfume into it. But I have to say this one just smelled a little bit too sharp for me. And so it wasn't fun to apply. And I realize that if a moisturizer works, it shouldn't matter how fun it is to apply. But I have to say in this case, I have moisturizers that I actually enjoy putting on my face, and I didn't enjoy this one. At least not the sensory experience of putting it on, scent-wise. But I have to say, touch-wise, it's kind of interesting because it has a very lightweight but moussey formula that almost has a little bit of structure, like whipped egg whites. So it's kind of fun to put on that way. And I noticed that it gave my skin kind of a mattifying effect. And I found that this, for me, worked best on days where I wasn't wearing any foundation, but it was really hot, and so my skin was almost looking too dewy. And then if I put this on, it would kind of mattify everything. So it was nice. I just think I have to decide whether it's worth keeping or not. I wouldn't go out and purchase this, but the fact that I have it and I got this free sample of it, part of me doesn't want to waste it. I just don't know if it's worth keeping for me. Maybe I'll try giving it to someone who's less sensitive because it is nice. So I don't want it to go to waste. We'll see. I also had 2 eyeshadow primers in my project this month, the Urban Decay eyeshadow primer and the Milani eyeshadow primer, and I wanted to put them both in the project so I could pit them head to head. So every single day that I wore an eyeshadow primer, I wore one on one eye, one on the other eye, used the same eyeshadow palette under the same conditions so I could really do a direct test. Because I had tried them separately before, and the Urban Decay one just seemed to win out for me. But sometimes when you're not trying things doing a direct comparison, you can kind of misjudge things. So I put them together head to head, and unfortunately, the more expensive Urban Decay one is better for my eye type and my skin type. And I'm kind of disappointed. But this one is just more reliable. The Milani is not a disaster by any means, but I do get creasing with this one. The colors aren't quite as vivid when I put them on. They don't blend quite as well over this one. Whereas with the Urban Decay, I felt like my eyeshadows blended seamlessly over it. They didn't crease. They didn't fade. And the only exception was when I was using my Zeesea eyeshadow palette, which I also had in my project this month. In that case, it was reversed. Then the Milani one was better. But every other eyeshadow palette that I tried both of these with, the Urban Decay was the clear winner. And I just feel like if this one is better with the majority of my eyeshadow palettes, then it's just the winner overall. So out of the two of these, Urban Decay beats Milani almost every time. I also did a head-to-head comparison of two foundations. Both of these say they have similar claims. One is the Estee Lauder Double Wear Stay in Place makeup. The other one is the Catrice Cosmetics All Matte Shine Control makeup. And I wanted to compare them because this one is so much more affordable. I was like, that would be great if this one wins this head-to-head competition. So I was really full out rooting for the Catrice. They are similar in that they are both long wearing and they both are mattifying, although I'll say the Catrice is much more matte than the Estee Lauder one. Even though both of them are matte, this one is more so. That's pretty much where their similarities end. When I applied these, I would do one on one half of my face, one on the other half. So the primer would be the same. The weather that day was the same. So like all of the conditions were the same. And the application method would be the same. I tried applying both of these with a wet sponge, with a dry sponge, with a brush, and with my fingers. I tried applying them in a thin layer, in a medium layer, and in a thicker layer to try to see if I could build up the coverage. And yeah, they performed so differently. I loved the way this one looked almost every time. And the Catrice one was a disaster every time. And that's so unfortunate because it's so much more affordable. But I guess in this case, I get what I pay for. For my skin type, this just isn't meant for me. This emphasized all of my texture, made my pores look enormous, gave me wrinkles that I don't even have yet, and just made me look like a dry, dead mummy. It was horrible. And that was with every single application method that I tried. So, you know, if you have my skin type, which is kind of like combination, I've got like everything in different parts of my face. This didn't look good on any part of my face at all. The only redeeming quality it had was that it stayed on all day, looking horrible, but it was on there. So I guess there's that. So I guess, you know, if you work in the theater and you are playing a character who's like 40 years older than you and you want to naturally age your face, go for this because you'll look 40 years older. I'm not going for that look most of the time, so I preferred the Estee Lauder one so much better. It didn't emphasize my texture. It had a mattifying effect, but it wasn't dry looking. So, you know, it was almost, I guess it was like a satin matte. It was like not quite completely matte, but it definitely wasn't like satin. It was just very skin-like and beautiful. It stayed all day. It looked gorgeous. It blended well. It was easy to apply. The only thing that I didn't like about this was when I applied it with my fingers. I didn't like the way it looked, but every other application method was beautiful and worked easily and gave me beautiful results. And the good thing is I could get a lighter layer of coverage with this, especially with a wet sponge. So I can see why this is a classic. This really worked excellently for me. So if I need a foundation to look gorgeous all day, this is one that I can count on. With this next group of products, I can't really say it was like a head-to-head comparison because they're ultimately different products, but I use them in very similar ways that kind of like overlap with each other. Namely, I use these products here to kind of prep my skin before I go in with foundation so that I can ultimately use less foundation. I can work in thinner layers and then my skin looks more like skin and less like a mask. I have to say both of them work really well, but they are very different. These have been discontinued, so I won't say much about them. I think I'm sad that they're discontinued because the texture of these is really nice. Like I feel like they almost have a slightly smoothing effect, and especially underneath my eyes with this pink color corrector, that was really nice. But the thing with color correctors in general, and I feel like I can talk about this because it's not specific to the Urban Decay line, it's just the way color correctors work, is that they blank you out. They make you look a little bit gray or pale. Like the ultimate effect that you get isn't skin color. It's more of just a kind of neutral thing. And that's okay because you're doing that so you can put on foundation over it and you don't need as much foundation because it doesn't have to cover up extreme redness or extreme darkness. But it is kind of a different effect ultimately than when you use something like this, which is more like skin toned. Using this contour kit, it also gave me a little bit of coverage. This highlighting fluid has a little bit of coverage, so it would kind of cover a little bit of the redness on my cheeks and also lighten the color up a little bit. And then this neutralizing color I would use under my eyes. And this is peachy, which is actually better for my under eyes. So I really liked using this because it would almost it would color correct, but also slightly warm up the area under my eyes, which I liked the look of better. But this formula isn't quite as nice as the Urban Decay one. It's not as smoothing. So even though it's very lightweight, it's very easy to use, very easy to wear, and it looks nice, it's not as smoothing, which was a little bit disappointing. And then the contour, just kind of, I can add a little bit of shadow underneath my foundation. And because I tend to use very thin layers of foundation, you can still see just a little echo of this underneath. And I feel like, in general, I do like color correctors and they have their place, but for the most part, I think I actually prefer more skin tone leaning products to prep my skin before foundation. But I'm definitely going to use these up, especially because the texture of them is so nice. When it comes to blushes, I chose two that I already know that I really, really love using, just because I wanted to. I wanted to have fun with my blush this month. I didn't want to, be testing something that I was unsure about. I just wanted to be in love with my blush this month. And I was, in fact, so much so that I hit pan on another blush. This is like a miracle for me. This is the fourth cheek product I have hit pan on this year. So go me. But basically, this is Juice Beauty's Last Looks Cream Blush in the shade 04, which is Flush. And this is just like a beautiful, natural flush color. Like, I imagine if you enjoy Clinique's Cheek Pop in Nude Pop. This is a little bit darker than that, but I feel like it kind of gives you a similar effect, but just a little bit juicier because it is a cream blush formula. I really enjoy the formula. It's slightly radiant, but not because of any sparkles. I just feel it's almost like a skincare sort of radiance, but it's also not extreme, which I like. I like that it's kind of a middle of the road. The color is middle of the road. The formula is middle of the road. It just kind of like hits that sweet spot of just right in every way. And that's why this is one of my favorite blushes of all time. The other blush that I have in this project this month that I know I already enjoy so much is this Patrick Ta She's So LA Double Take Cream and Powder Blush Duo. And I loved using both the powder and the cream this month. And it was interesting to be able to compare the cream formulas. The Patrick Ta is much more of a gel formula. It doesn't have as much pigment to it. It's beautiful to use, but I almost use this as like a topper. But what I thought was similar is that you get kind of a skincare sort of radiance effect with both of them. I'd say this one is like a beautiful flush and this is a beautiful summer flush. But I actually enjoyed using these together and I had so much fun and I'm so glad I had them in this project and I'm going to be sad to put them back. Lipsticks was the last category, I think, where I had like a head-to-head sort of thing going on. But once again, just like with the blushes, I wasn't really comparing these. I already know that I really enjoy all of these. I just really wanted to play with some of my favorite lipsticks, so that's why they're in the project this month. All four of them are different and lovely in their own ways. The Zeesea one, I mean, first of all, who doesn't love an eccentric dragon staring at you when you put it on your lipstick? So the packaging is cool. It's weighted, so it feels nice. It smells like vanilla wafers, so that's awesome. And then, you've got the beautiful embossing on the actual bullet itself, which is always just like an added extra when you're applying it. It's comfortable. It's the only matte I had in the project, and it was so comfortable to wear. And it can be very sheer if you want it to be, which I also like. Formula-wise, it reminds me a little bit of the Gucci matte formula and a little bit of the Lisa Eldridge matte formula. So if you were interested in either of those, but you didn't want to spend like $40 or more on a lipstick, I believe the Zeesea one is $29. And so it's not exactly the same. But I do feel like they have similarities, and this one definitely felt like I was using a very nice lipstick when I applied it. So I enjoyed that one. I have it in the shade M10. Then I used the Rouge à Lèvres Voile formula from Gucci in the shade Katrin Sand, and that's what I have on my lips today. And what I like about this formula is it's so easy to apply because it's sheer, and it's also not too glossy. This is like the most elegant chapstick in the world. It smells like violet candy. It is so comfortable to wear. It's got a sheerness to it, but the color is yet still present. And it's so easy for someone like me who doesn't want to look like they're wearing lipstick, but really loves wearing lipstick. This is like the perfect formula. The other Gucci lipstick I had in here was a different formula. This is the Rouge de Beauté Brillant formula in the shade Linette Stone. And this is kind of like a cool brown. And I really enjoy this one too because it's also very sheer. But this one has impact because of its shine. This is almost like a gloss stick. And I do think that this is beautiful. It makes the lips look juicy, but it's not too much. And I just love the shades in the Gucci line. I just feel like whoever did that, whoever picked those shades and mixed them did such a good job because they are beautiful. And the last lipstick I had in here was Rouge Coco from Chanel in the shade 402 Adrienne. And this is just such an easy to wear, comfortable nude. It's a typical cream lipstick and a typical bullet. So it's not anything like super fancy, super special, but it's just such a nice color, such a nice finish, so easy to wear. So there's reasons why I love all of these lipsticks. The concealer I chose this month is infamous. It is the Tarte Shape Tape. This used to be the one, the only for so many people back in the day, but it has since fallen out of favor, I think, for a lot of different reasons. But one of them, I think, is just that concealer technology has evolved since this came out. This is still a very lightweight formula with high coverage, which I think is great. I think that's why everybody liked it so much, but it is drying. And I feel like formulas like my Lancôme Teint Idole full coverage concealer, I feel like that one is also lightweight and full coverage, yet not nearly as drying as this one. So I feel like, technology has moved on, but I'm glad I have this because this is the only concealer that I currently have in my summer shade. And so it wasn't a disaster. It definitely, didn't do wonders for my eyes, but it's usable. And the good thing is that, it is full coverage, so it does help with my dark circles. But even Tarte Shape Tape cannot on its own beat the dark circles under my eyes. So I have yet to find a concealer that can just do it on its own. My bronzer for this month is also an oldie but a goodie. It's the Too Faced Chocolate Soleil in the medium to deep shade. I don't hear anybody talk about this one anymore. Basically, I chose it for two reasons. Number one, it is the darkest bronzer that I own, and I'm at my darkest, so I thought now would be the perfect time to break it on out. But second of all, it's matte, and most of my bronzers have at least some element of radiance in them. And so I just thought, because it's really hot and humid, that, this time of year, this would be perfect for that. And it was. It worked beautifully. Now that I've gotten to know a couple of different bronzer formulas, I'm not sure this is like my fave anymore. I think it might be kind of going the same way that the Shape Tape went, where I think even powder formulas have changed now and have improved a bit. So I'm not sure that this is the best for me, but it worked nicely. And as I said, it's my darkest bronzer, and so it's very fitting for this time of year. My powder highlight for the month was this Physicians Formula Shimmer Strip, which I enjoyed because I could choose the depth of my highlight. And so because I had that matte bronzer, if I wanted to add a little bit of sheen to it, I could, using the kind of darker side of the shimmer strip. But for the most part, I focused right around here. In the winter, I'm normally down here. In the summer, I'm normally kind of in the middle. And I like that because I can kind of change my highlight as my skin tone changes throughout the year. And just like all of the other powder highlights I've had in this project this year, I find that my favorite way to apply this is using my finger, which is not typical for me in powder products, but once again, I'm finding that it works best with yet another powder highlight. So I just go in with my finger, tap it on my cheek, and that's how I like it best. So that's how I used it. I also really enjoyed it as an inner corner highlight and a brow bone highlight, but in that case, I did like it better with a brush. Probably because I have tiny brushes and I can be more precise that way. My eyeshadow palette for the month was this Zeesea palette with the Sphinx on it. I think on the website it's called the Sphinx palette, but my sticker here says it's called the Fireworks 16 Colors Eyeshadow 10 palette. So I don't know. It's the one that looks like this. It's got a Sphinx on it. I actually did a review of the entire Zeesea brand with everything that I have from Zeesea. And that's not online yet, but it will be going online shortly. So if it's already up, I will make sure that I'll add that link in the cards and in the show notes so you can check it out if you want. But basically what I'll say about this is it's solid. It's not the best palette I've ever used, but it's by far not the worst. It had a couple of really nice standout shades in it. It had a couple of duds, and the rest of them were solid shades. The one thing I'd say about this palette is like, even on my brow bone where I don't have problems with like creasing or fading or anything, like if I didn't use a primer with these shadows, they were completely gone within 2 hours. Like it was like I had put no eye makeup on at all, even when I did like a really smoky look. So that was kind of impressive, the fact that these can just disappear. But when I used them with a primer, that wasn't a problem. So I will say that. I also had an eyeliner in my project this month from Melt Cosmetics. It's their all day, everyday reflect eyeliner in the shade Corrupt, which is a nice warm brown. I really enjoy these eyeliners, not as much as the Urban Decay 24/7 formula. I think that's probably my favorite when it comes to like smoky liners, but this is like a really nice, soft, gooey gel, and it's really easy to smoke out. I don't tend to use this on my waterline because even though it does set down, I feel like I always have to blink before it sets, and then it always transfers. So this is the sort of thing I only use on like my upper lash line or maybe like here on the outer corner underneath. Then it looks fine because then I can blend it out, I can really smoke things up, and it's just very nice. So I do enjoy them. Even though they're not my favorite, I'm definitely going to enjoy using this one up. And this is the first month that I chose to include a fragrance in this project. So I chose Tom Ford Bitter Peach. To be honest, I was a little bit hesitant to include a perfume in this project just because I was worried that if I made myself wear any of my fragrances 22 times in rapid succession, that even if I really enjoyed them, that I might stop liking them, if I smelled them too much. But to be honest, the opposite happened. The more I wear this one, the more I want to wear it. And I think, to be fair, it's also because of the fragrance itself, because it's very nuanced and it evolves throughout the day. Like it's a very complex scent. This one, when I initially spray it, it's very peachy, but like it's got kind of like a peach schnapps sort of thing. So it's almost like it doesn't smell like I'm spraying myself with booze. It's not like that. It's very peachy. Like you smell the peach, but you also smell something a little bit more grown up about it. Like it's not just like a fruity peach scent that like I would have worn as a teenager. Like this is like a grown up peach. But as I wear it throughout the day, it like gets a little bit herbal, and then it gets a little bit spicy, and then it gets a little bit powdery, and then it kind of mixes, and it just grows and changes throughout the whole day. And so no matter how often I wear this, it stays interesting. So I'm really glad I had it in this project. I'm kind of sad that I'm going to be rolling it out, but I think it's a good thing because, this whole project is about experimenting with different things, and I want to see about my other fragrances too, and like what sort of fragrances I really enjoy, and why I like them. Like I only discovered that I love the evolution of this scent because I was wearing it so often, and so I think it'll be good to do that with other scents as well. So I'll definitely revisit this because this has become a favorite scent of mine, and maybe it will be my signature scent because I love it. And that, my friend, is that for part 1 of this update. If you'd like to make sure you catch part 2, then I hope you'll consider subscribing. If you enjoyed this video, I hope you'll give it a thumbs up. Maybe leave me a comment to say hello. I always love hearing from you. And other than that, thanks so much for hanging out with me today. I hope you have a wonderful week and that we can all remember that even stumbling can be a form of moving forward. So let's stumble in style.